Cattails 32. Shortly after we adopted 2 children, ages 7 and 5, to love and take care of, we adopted 2 kittens for them to love and take care of. A local farmer brought us 2 males from a litter of half-Siamese kittens. Because of their mixed breeding, they both had deformed tails. We named one Smokey, because of his smoke-like gray coloring. His tail was shorter than normal and oddly kinked, so that when he raised it, it looked like an arthritic finger. The other gray kitten's deformity was worse. His tail was full length but bent back over itself in a Z shape. We were going to name him Zorro, but when he jumped out of a cardboard box and got his tail hung over the edge, preventing him from getting loose, we realized the deformed tail was dangerous to him. We had it removed, and he became Bob, for the bobbed tail. Smokey and Bob grew and blended in with the family, along with the children. We bought a camper and taught the cats to enjoy riding in it. That was a good thing, because shortly thereafter we moved from far northeast Colorado all the way across the state diagonally to far southwest Colorado. We packed 2 kids, 2 cats, and all the belongings that didn't go into the moving van into the camper and drove over the mountains to our new town. My husband had signed a teaching contract and made a deal on a house. When we arrived, we found out the house deal had fallen through. We looked and looked but could find no houses for sale in our price range. Rentals were almost impossible to find in the rapidly growing tourist town. School was about to start. Another teacher came to the rescue and allowed us to park our camper in his driveway. His wife didn't like cats or kids, so I spent a lot of time trying to keep all 4 from annoying her. School started, and the kids had to register with no address. I began to understand how homeless families must feel. My husband had to grade papers and do lesson plans sitting in the driver's seat with a flashlight, while I tried to keep the kids and cats under control in the back. We didn't want the kids to have to change schools again, but I began to despair of finding a house that would work for us. After several weeks of living like squatters, a for sale sign went up on the house across the street. "We're going to get that house," I vowed, "whatever it takes." It took talking the seller down in price and borrowing money from my mother, but we finally had a place to move into, and the kids and cats had room to roam and play. There was a nice big elm tree in the backyard that all 4 liked to climb. One day I looked out and saw my daughter standing in the crook of the elm with the 2 cats on each side of her. I went outside. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Trying to get up my brave to jump down like the kitties do," she said. And then she did, landing on her feet just like a cat. While teaching the cats to ride in the camper had been a good idea at the time, we found it had a downside. They loved to get into vehicles, and when anyone left a car window open, it wasn't long before they were inside. Our neighbors got used to checking for them and shooing them out before they left for work, but I worried that someday a stranger would unknowingly drive away with our cats, never to return. Sure enough, one fine summer day Smokey disappeared. We called and searched, to no avail. The kids were heartbroken. They'd already had so much loss in their lives. "Maybe he went to another foster home," Jerry said sadly, a concept he knew only too well. His sister, Terry, added, "I hope he gets adopted by a nice family." "I'm sure that's what happened," I said, not at all sure but willing to grasp any straw offered. Gradually, the tears subsided and we all got used to Smokey's absence, even Bob. He became king of the house, the only pet pampered and adored by all. In fact, I doubt if he missed Smokey very much. But the rest of us did. Things just weren't the same with only one cat. Someone's lap was always empty. 6 months later, on Christmas afternoon, the kids were playing with their new toys and my husband with his. My mother had given him a freestanding fireplace, which he was in the middle of installing. I was just starting to pick up the piles of wrapping paper and ribbon scattered all over when I heard Bob scratching on the front door to come in, as he always did. He'd gotten fat and lazy and didn't like to be out in the cold snow for long. I stepped over a piece of stovepipe to open the door and felt the cat brush against my leg as he came in. Then I heard yowls and hisses from the couch as Bob reacted to the intruder. I looked down to see a gray cat with a raised, crooked tail, Smokey, a very scrawny, bedraggled Smokey, still rubbing against my legs. The kids were yelling, "Smokey, Smokey," as the cats raced around the house, chasing each other over the pieces of stovepipe and through the piles of Christmas paper in a chaos of celebration. Finally, I was able to pick up Smokey, over his brother's loud protests. The pads of his feet were bloody and worn thin, and he was skin and bones, not to mention very dirty. But oh, how loud his purr was! How I wished he could talk and tell us his adventures. Where had he been? How far had he walked? What dangers had he faced? How did he find the way? Some things we just can't understand, and the force that brings an animal back to the family who loves it is one of them. Smokey recovered nicely and regained his weight, although he never got as fat as Bob, who, after a few days, decided to accept him again. We often hear about how loving and loyal dogs are and how haughty and independent cats are. Well, maybe it was just a desire for free food and familiar surroundings that brought Smokey back, but somehow I doubt it. I think he missed us and got up his brave to make the long journey home.